Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Today I want to do sort of a board game review, and that is going to be for the game, Exit the Game, the Pharaoh's Tomb. So what this is it's kind of modeled after the idea of escape rooms, which is like a challenge where you're trying to solve puzzles to escape from a locked room situation kind of thing. Geek and Sundry has a really cool series on their channels with Jan DeFrani, I think, is the hostess of that show. And it's pretty cool. It's kind of an interesting idea, and these are a series of board games that are dedicated to that concept. There are three of them that are out at this point in time that I'm aware of. One of them is Abandoned Cabin, the other one is the Laboratory, and this one is the Pharaoh's Tomb. I picked this up because I think it looked kind of the coolest. I'm really big into like Egyptian history and stuff like that, so I thought this would be a really cool one to pick up. So without further ado, what we'll do is we'll open it up. I haven't looked inside of it yet, but we'll open it up and we'll see what's inside. Alright, so before we actually open everything up here, let's just take a closer look at the packaging itself. So it's got, like I said, really nice, cool artwork on it. I really enjoy that. Exit the Game, I think, is the series. I don't know if there's plans to do any additional ones beyond this. It's done by Cosmos, which is pretty cool. You just have the barcode here. But on the back, what's really interesting is, it gives you sort of a preview of what's inside, and it gives you an explanation as to what's going on. So essentially what's happened is you were on a trip to the Valley of the Kings on a Egyptian vacation, and you ended up getting separated basically from your tour group. So as you get separated, you enter this mysterious burial chamber, and this massive stone door closes behind you. On the floor lie a dusty notebook and an ancient disc, and you have to use those to figure out the puzzles in a way to get out of the game itself, or out of the room itself. So this is a game for 1 to 6 players of ages 12 and plus. The expected play time, they say, is around 1 to 2 hours. And what I like here, they have the attributes, let you know kind of what game it is. I mean, it has escape room fun, which is probably not as important, but you look at things like it's not luck-based at all, really, or very, very minimal luck. It's more based on strategy and a heavy emphasis on riddle solving. So, if you're into that sort of thing, then this is going to be a really cool game. Inside the contents here, there's a decoder disc, which looks like this here. 83 cards, 2 strange items, a book, and the rule book. Now, one thing about this that you can see right here on the back, it's got kind of like the caution tape here. So this is what's considered to be a legacy game, meaning that it's intended to really only ever be played once, because it says here you mark up, fold, and tear the game materials. Now, where this is heavily a mystery solving, riddle solving kind of game, I can't really show off a lot of the contents themselves. Like, I can't show you the what's printed on the cards except for the backs, but we'll kind of have a look at that here in a second. So anyway, without further ado, let's open up the box here. So inside we've got our mystery items, and then we've got our rule book here. So it's just kind of a thin one here, but it says, caution, do not look at the playing materials yet. First read the manual together and be certain, and carefully follow all of its instructions. Okay, so we've got that there. And just has like the materials, the setup. Looks like you're going to have a sheet of paper, a watch or stopwatch, because looks like you're timing yourself. And yeah, just some information here. The course of play, what happens if you incorrectly solve riddles, which is kind of cool. And on the back here, it looks like we've got our scoring system. So what you do is you take how long the game took you to finish, and looks like there's also things called help cards. So we'll look at those. I'm not going to get too far into that yet, so we'll kind of just open the box here first. And we've got our notes by Dr. Ford. So this is just the booklet that I guess you find on the floor. So I'm not going to go too much into that. I don't want to look too closely at this stuff, honestly, because I want to play the game. So I don't want to spoil anything myself. And then we've got our decoder disc. So there's 4 rings, and you got the symbols on the outside, which must have some sort of importance, and then some other hieroglyphs and some numbers here. So it looks like based off of whatever you decide here, it gives you kind of a clue as to what to look at, I believe. And we've got our deck of cards. So we've got here important. Do not yet take a closer look at the playing materials. First read the playing it. But what I like about this is because the bottoms of the cards do have spoilers. Because you've got, from what the contents look like, there's riddle cards. There's riddle cards. Let's just take a look at the back of the box here, that helps. Answer cards and help cards. So the riddle cards must be things that you find to try to solve puzzles. It must involve this decoder disc, and when you find what you think to be the answer, you look at the corresponding answer card, and it will either tell you, yes, that is the solution, or you're on the right track, or it could very well say that, no, he's just flat out wrong. So I'm not going to be able to look at any of the specific cards to show off what they look like, unfortunately, mainly because I don't want to spoil it for myself. But what I will do is I'll open up this package and I'll just kind of sort the cards out so you can have a look and see what they look like. So just give me a moment here and I'll get that done. Alright, so here are the cards laid out. Like I said, I haven't looked at any of the actual fronts of any of these because I don't want to know until I actually get a chance to play the game. But you can just see here I've got them kind of laid out. And so like I said, I can't show off the fronts of any of these, but we'll just take a look at the backs here. So we got like our riddle cards. So these are the things that you can use to solve the mystery of how to get out. I understand from kind of flipping through that you probably find clues as to which riddles to undertake by looking through the notes by Dr. Ford. So I would suggest that you kind of look through at some of the pictures there, see if you can find anything that will let you know kind of where to get started. So there's nothing in the rule book that actually says, grab your decoder disc and solve riddle A. Like, you don't necessarily do these in order. You just do these in whichever method that the game kind of tries to steer you towards by, planning the clues for. So it's going to take a little bit of time to figure out, just exactly where to get started. So that's kind of interesting. It doesn't hold your hand for sure. And the riddle cards just have letters on them, and they go all the way from A. I'm starting to think they went from all the way from A to Z, but they just go from A to V. So a few letters are missing there. I don't think you necessarily end up using each and every single one of these riddles. I think some of them are just going to be like dead ends, things that kind of impede your progress. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how that plays out. Again, I can't look at the front because I actually intend to play this game, so I don't want any idea of what to do ahead of time. We also have our answer cards, so they kind of coincide with the decoder disc. So you kind of arrange the symbols and based on how you think the solution to a puzzle may be, and then you look at the corresponding answer card. So again, they're either going to have an X on them, because the rule book does show that, and in fact I can kind of show that based off what's in the rule book. So they may say, no, it's incorrect, or perhaps it could be along those lines, so you'll see something like this that will kind of steer you towards that position. I don't know what any of the correct ones look like. They don't show that in the rule book, but we've got quite a few of these as well, so numbered 1 all the way up to 30, so there's 30 possible answer cards that you could come across by playing this game, which is pretty cool. And then we've got our help cards. So again, I can't really look at any of these, but with the help cards, one thing I did notice is that the help cards have symbols that correspond with the symbols on the outside of the wheel. So basically, if you're working on a particular puzzle, so let's just say you're working on the riddle that you use the circular symbol for on the decoder disc, and you find yourself to be stuck and you're not quite sure what to do, then these will help you. So these are clue cards. Each of these puzzles has 3 clue cards that you can use. The first one and the second one are designed to help kind of steer you towards solving it on your own. So if you're stuck and you're like, I don't know what to do, let's flip over the clue and see what we have, then you can do that. And if you're still stuck, you can look at the second clue, and ultimately if you find that you're just not able to solve the riddle yourself, then there is a solution card that will help you, because I mean, solving these individually isn't going to necessarily hand you the game type of thing, as far as I can understand. There's still some puzzle solving that has to go into it. Now, what's interesting is that while these are available to you, using these cards affects the overall score. So if you take a look here, you have a look at, so it gives you the times as well as how many help cards you use to determine what your score was. So if you finish the game in under 60 minutes, or around 60 minutes, and you don't use any help cards at all, you get 10 stars, which you can record basically on the back here. So you earned how many stars in your assessment, used how many total help cards, and if you're really stuck on this one and it takes you over 2 hours to complete, and you use more than 10 help cards, then you only earn a single star. So it's kind of interesting. It the game times you, and again, it gives you the ability to get unstuck. So that's one of the things that I really like about this. But the way that it does that also affects basically your score, which is kind of like a bragging rights type of thing. So these are basically the contents. Now, one thing that I also thought was kind of cool is there is some just advertisement cards. So they don't really serve any other purpose, other than to just kind of let you know what else they have available. So, have you played it yet? So there's Exit the Game, The Abandoned Cabin, and it gives you the kind of the backstory there. There's a Secret Laboratory. I couldn't quite remember the name of that off the top of my head, so that's kind of cool. And yes, so I had kind of wondered if they were going to do more beyond those 3, and apparently they are going to continue them. I don't know if they're going to be linked together in terms of, if you played through the Pharaoh's Tomb, does this one kind of follow that story? It would be interesting, especially where it's what they say, is a legacy game and meant to be only played once. And then we just have the bottom of the deck cards, so that's pretty cool. And so the bottom and the top one are just designed to prevent any spoilers, which is great. So I'm just going to slide that underneath that and put all this back in the box. So that's kind of the contents of it. So, I've read the rules a little bit, and what I'll do is just kind of mull it over for a few minutes, and I'll come back sort of with my final thoughts and review. Alright, so my final thoughts on Exit the Game, The Pharaoh's Tomb. This seems like a really kind of cool game. I'm really interested in playing this. I think it's a really unique kind of game. The puzzle solving. I like the fact that you basically have to figure out everything as you go along. Like, the game doesn't tell you to, pick riddle A and start from there. Like, you have to look for clues, you have to figure out which riddles to pursue, and then use that to try to figure out, the solutions to the problems, and ultimately to escape the game. It seems like it's going to be a lot of fun for people who are interested in riddles and puzzle solving. If you're not interested in riddles, if you're not big on puzzle solving, then this is not going to be a game that you're going to enjoy. I can think of a couple of friends at least who would basically mentally shut down if I pulled this out for them to try to play. But that said, if you have friends that are really big into puzzle solving and into riddles, then this is going to be a lot of fun. The downside is, where it is a legacy game, the fact that you're only intended to play it once makes it difficult for me to recommend, based off the fact that I paid $20 to pick this up. I'm not sure that $20 is a satisfactory price for something that you're only going to play for about 2 hours maximum. I mean, maybe a little bit longer than that, but it's really intended to be done in less than 2 hours. Let's just say you have a group of people that are really good at puzzle solving and you finish it in an hour. That's $20 that you spent on an hour of gameplay that you're never going to probably ever play again. I didn't look at any of the cards, so I'm not entirely sure, but I think most of the folding and marking and cutting that may take place could very well be on the actual Notes by Dr. Ford booklet. Hoping that's the case. I don't think that you're intended to cut the cards up. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't looked at them. But if that's the case, then you can photocopy the notes if you want to have another group run through it. I'm still looking forward to playing this. I don't know how many more of these I would actually consider buying. I think what I would probably do is, if I played this with a group of people and they enjoyed it, then maybe if we wanted to go through the other ones, then I would probably ask them to contribute towards buying it. Because again, for me to get all three of them would be over $60, and it's a lot of money for, like I said, a one-time play. What I think would have been more interesting if they would have put in different escape scenarios. So, you could have had scenario A, B, and C, for example, that would let you play this game up to 3 different times, or even 2 separate times if you had like A and B, before you use up all the materials in the game itself. That said, where this is all about puzzle solving and riddles, once you solve the riddles, there's really no point in ever actually playing it again anyway, because you know the solutions. The only thing I would probably want to do is photocopy the material so that I could have another group of people run through it and see how they do compared to how I did. I might consider that if I wanted to, say, demo this at a store, then that's probably the way that I would go about it if possible. That said, like I said, it looks like it's going to be a pretty cool game. It looks like it can be a lot of fun. I like the fact that you're never going to get 100% stuck. So if you're having trouble with the problem, with the riddle, there are hint cards that you can look at that will ultimately steer you towards the solution, if not provide the solution for you if you're still struggling. So you're never going to get completely caught on a game, but using those cards affects the overall score at the end, which again could be bragging rights if you have another group of friends that are similarly playing through this. I'd be interested to see what they do with the second wave of these games, if they're going to connect them to the first wave, because if they do that, it may be a little bit more worth it if there's this overall storyline. I wish I could show off more of the actual game itself. I wish I could show off all the cards so that you can see what they look like, but again, that's spoiler territories. Ultimately, like I said, I'm looking forward to it. If you're into puzzle solving and riddles, then I think you're going to have a lot of fun with this. Now, the price that I paid is the Canadian price, and you can probably find it for cheaper than that. I would say that if you can do that, then this is definitely a worthwhile pickup. If you're paying 20 bucks for it, maybe find the one that appeals to you the most, like I did, and go from there. So ultimately, I recommend this for the people that would be interested in the kind of gameplay that this has. If you're not into riddles, not into puzzles, then probably save your 20 bucks towards something else. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below if you played these games, what you thought of them. Don't spoil anything though. Don't provide solutions to any of the puzzles. I'd even prefer if you didn't really talk about what puzzles you found the most challenging, only because, again, that can kind of lead into spoiler territory. But if you played the game, let me know what you thought of it. I'd be interested to see what people's experiences actually were. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.